Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to PC101. My name is Chris, and today I'm going to be introducing you guys to something new that I'm hoping to bring to the channel. Maybe not very frequent, we'll see how it goes, we'll see if you guys like it, we'll see if we can get people like Sam and Keilan and Braden that want to do this with me. But we're going to end up starting a podcast. This might just be a one-off video, this might be a whole series, we might do this weekly, we might do it monthly, who knows, but we're going to end up doing a little bit of a podcast here. And I'm going to take this time to kind of go over some of the things I've learned and really taken the time to think about over the course of the last several months. So, some of you guys may have noticed that it has been a long time since I have posted a breakdown on the channel, and there's a number of reasons for that. One of the reasons being the interesting scheduling and the circumstances surrounding the college football season, with some teams playing, some teams not, some teams hopping off, and cancellations and delays, and it's made things pretty difficult in terms of keeping up with guys throughout the course of the season and so on and so forth, at least for me personally, during the course of this crazy year. So hopefully we can find a little bit of normalcy when things kind of return to normal, at least a little bit more normal. Over the course of the next couple weeks when we get the Big Ten back, we get the Pac-12 back, and so on. But I kind of wanted to talk to you guys today about some of the things that we've been doing instead of videos over the course of the last few months. So I've actually gotten a lot of very interesting stuff done over the course of quarantine, and it was really just giving me an opportunity myself. This is going to be a lot of me and what I've done. So, but anyway, I've gotten to find some different theories and beliefs and philosophies and ideas from other sports, and kind of being able to kind of take those with me and apply that in a way to a football like sphere. So, the first topic of this video, I want to kind of go over some of the things that the Red Wings have been doing, the Detroit Red Wings hockey team, and how that kind of has helped me form some stronger beliefs in my football scouting. So the Red Wings are, for those of you guys who don't know, they're a hockey team from Detroit. They play in the NHL. Some of you guys may have varying levels of hockey knowledge, so I'm going to kind of go over everything. And a good probably 10, 15 years ago, back when I was younger, they were a very, very, very good team. They won back-to-back championships the year I was born and the year after in 97, 98. And they ended up winning another one in 2002 and another one in 2008. So basically 4 championships over the course of my lifetime, if I remember correctly. It might have been 3 technically, because I don't remember if it was 96, 97, or 98, 99. I think it was 96, 97, so technically it would have only been 3. But anyway, back to the point, they were a very, very good team for a long time. They made the playoffs in 20 straight years. It might have been more than that, 22, 23. And a good portion of the success came after the Red Wings drafted a young player by the name of Steve Yzerman in the NHL draft in 1983. So, Steve Yzerman ended up coming in as the 3rd overall pick, coincidentally, Lions fans. Um, interesting connection there, but he ended up coming into Detroit his rookie year, and the team stunk. They were not that good. They really, really struggled. And then over the course of time, it took him 13 years, but he ended up winning a championship times 3 because he wasn't on the 08 team in Detroit. And Eiserman was a very mentally aware, very high IQ, intelligent hockey player. This is all gonna cycle around. So that's a very important point here. Is that Stevie Y, as I'm going to call him frequently, is a very mental intangibles type of player when he played for Detroit. Two-way guy, played offense and defense. Of course, hockey has both sides of the puck, so you have to play both offense and defense. He was very balanced. We'll call it that. He was a very balanced hockey player. He could score, he could pass, he could play defense. And most importantly, he was very aware. He was always in position. He was very intelligent, strong decision-making abilities. Already kind of starting to see some similarities here, I think, if you're even paying attention. So Eiserman has been, over the course of his post-playing career, gotten into the front office and management. He started out as a scout for the Red Wings after he retired in 2007, I believe. He retired after the 06 playoffs, which would have been started the 07 season. And then after that, he became a scout, rose through the ranks, and then he went to Tampa Bay to be the general manager of the Lightning. Now, for those of you guys who have been paying attention to hockey during quarantine, the Tampa Bay Lightning are the Stanley Cup champions, mainly because of the team that Steve Yzerman helped build. There were two guys that were there before Yzerman that were a key part of that, Steven Stamkos and Victor Hedman, I believe. So was Hedman the first Yzerman pick? I don't remember who was the first Yzerman pick or the year before. Anyway, they were a core part of the team. And then there were obviously a couple of moves that may or may not have put them over the top under Brisebois, who succeeded Yzerman over the last 2 years. And so there's a little bit of a gap there, but 90% of their success, their team build, came from Yzerman. So what we did, well, I guess I should say what I did, is I went back, starting last year actually, ahead of the 2019 NHL draft, and kind of found out some of the things that made Yzerman's teams in Tampa Bay successful. Because even before this year when they won the Cup, they were in the finals, I think, once or twice. They were a competitive team, playoff contending team every single year, and they found consistent success. So what I did was I kind of went back through Yzerman's tenure with Tampa Bay, and I kind of tried to find some similarities and some trends in the types of players that he liked. And the one thing that really, really stood out to me was mental traits, intangibles, IQ, awareness, vision, decision making, not necessarily so much technique, definitely not necessarily strength, although size was a factor in some cases. It was all about guys who knew what they were doing, intangibles, decision making, and just being aware, mentally tough, mental toughness. All these types of things have a strong correlation to teams that Yzerman built in Tampa Bay. And those teams were successful, and those were the types of teams that were found success with the Red Wings, which was the team that I grew up watching in my younger years, even before I watched too much football. I grew up watching Red Wings hockey. My family was much more into hockey than football, and honestly, at that point in time, the Lions were being run by Matt Millen, so it was kind of hard to get into the Lions at that point. But yeah, it's all kind of tied to that same mental trait connection. They're all connected to mental traits. So that goes back to things that the Red Wings were good at when Yzerman was here, what Yzerman found success with, and so on and so forth. It all comes back to those mental traits. So what I did was I kind of took things and applied that a little bit more heavily into the football side of things. And unfortunately, we're not able to be in the interviews, and we get a little bit of things like from, for example, Senior Bowl interviews, combine interviews. Of course, we pro day interviews. Even we hear a little bit about, in some cases, through the media. But we, at least I personally, don't really get the chance to talk to these prospects one-on-one and get to know them and ask them what they did on a certain play or whatever. I kind of just have to go in mind with, okay, what am I seeing on tape, and how does that apply to a specific system or translation or whatever. So it's not exactly the same thing, but in a way it kind of is. And I think that I'm going on this search for mental traits this year. And it's really kind of become a core critical trait for me, uh, across all of my football scouting. Just experiencing that with what the Red Wings are trying to build, uh, and even we're seeing this with good basketball teams. Obviously, there's other things involved in basketball too, but a lot of the best basketball players know how to get off the screens and create space and uh, are always in position and leverage and everything like that. There's a lot of mental into basketball too. Uh, but I think really I've learned this the most from hockey, and finding guys who are in position and aware of where they are on the ice and aware of where other people are, around them on the ice too, and being able to judge accurately other players' athletic ability, athleticism, how a guy can cut off a pass or how a guy can adjust their angle to make a hit and things like that. There are a lot of similarities between hockey and football. And it's very interesting because obviously in football you're talking about more so the tackling and the route to a ball carrier, whereas in hockey you're talking about the route to a puck carrier to make a hit. So there's obviously minor differences, and obviously ice and turf and grass and different surfaces that you're playing on, but there are a lot of similarities there. And with passing, right? Passing is a very similar concept. Obviously, there's a quarterback who's a designed passer in football, whereas everyone has to pass in hockey. There's a little bit of a difference there too. But you're looking for the same kind of thing. You're looking for, can the guy get the velocity on the pass to get the puck to the ball carrier or the puck carrier? And can the guy place the puck or ball accurately to the stick or hands of the receiver of the puck or ball? And obviously, I'm kind of stretching this a little bit, but I mean, there are similarities there. There's similar things that you're looking for. But what it all comes back to at the end is decision making. Did this player make the right decision to pass the puck or ball to this player? Based on where the players are around them, based on where players are going to go, based on where players are going momentum wise, and things like that. So I do think that there is a lot to learn from what Eiserman is doing in Detroit, building the Red Wings, and how we can apply that to building a football team in, for example, Detroit. And it's been very interesting to me to kind of dig into the mental trait side of things and really get the emphasis on a team who has had consistent success that I'm familiar with myself, uh, build around mental traits. So while it's always fun to talk about, oh my gosh, look at this guy's footwork, or look at this guy's hand usage, or look at the mechanics, or the hip flexibility, or the ability to change direction, all that stuff is important. Right, I mean, skill is still a very important piece of the puzzle, especially if you're drafting early. Like, for example, number 3. We wouldn't have taken Okuda if he couldn't cover, for example. But the number one thing that I think we really have to start considering is the mental traits. And this might be just personal message. Maybe I'm talking to myself. Maybe I'm talking to some of you guys who are listening who maybe focus so much on athleticism that you don't really consider the mental elements of the game. So I think that it's really just important I kind of want to focus on this message that we really take the chance to evaluate where guys are at mentally. And I really do think that that's going to be what results in the highest floor for a lot of these players. And especially as we go into 2020, where a lot of these guys have had very mentally difficult decisions. Guys are sitting out. Guys have had to skip. Guys planned on sitting out due to the Big Ten or Pac-12 not playing, and they're coming back, for example, Sean Wade. So seeing how these guys recover from those things, how they adjust to a different starting season, uh, where guys are at mentally in interviews, and how they coped with this quarantine process. I think that's going to be very interesting to learn about and delve into over the course of the next several months as we approach the pre-draft process moving forward. And I hope that that's one thing that all 32 teams, regardless of my personal favorite or Keilan's or Braden's or Sam's, whoever, consider when they draft. Because a lot of these guys are going through difficult situations. I think it was Nick Saban said something like, "These guys are safer on our campus and in our locker rooms and following our football protocols that we have to go through than they would be maybe in their homes or maybe in their communities where there may not be as strict protocol or maybe things aren't as safe." uh, for a number of different reasons, but mainly in terms of the reaction to the pandemic. And so it's and even in other ways too. We've seen this specifically again. I can relate this to the Lions with the whole uh, equality. I'll call it for for being politically correct, I guess. Because this is a video on YouTube, but just equal rights movement. And there's a lot of mental toughness there that required a lot of leadership from players within the locker room to kind of stand up and be the leaders of that change that ended up leading to things happening in the basketball world with sitting out. And even at one point, we thought that we might not even complete the bubble because of things that the Lions helped start and create. So it's been really interesting to kind of learn more about the mental side of things and really kind of delve deep into why mental traits are so important. Not just in hockey, for example, with what the Red Wings are building, or not just with the Pistons who have a regime change, more on that in a little bit, but also with the Lions and other football teams around the NFL. And we're seeing that with teams like Kansas City who have had success. Uh, Mahomes initially struggling a little bit, needing to overcome that hump with recognizing the man coverage, playing the Lions, playing the Colts, playing the Patriots. He ended up developing that and learning that over the course of his career under Ring the Enemy and Kafka. Shout out to Mike Kafka, by the way. Uh, and now he is a Super Bowl champion. He overcame that adversity of not being the best at recognizing those coverages, part of playing in the Big 12, by the way. Uh, and he became a champion, even if his MVP season the year before was better, right? He was a better individual quarterback statistically, put up more production. He became a champion off of the mental traits and the development of the progressions and the comfort level of the trust of the receivers and everything like that entering year two as a starter. So there's a lot of mental traits that go into that success that Patrick Mahomes has had. And that was one of the reasons why I loved Lamar Jackson as a prospect. Even like when people were saying, oh yeah, he should play running back. Obviously, I'm a Louisville fan and everything like that, so I got to see a little bit more of him than a lot of other people did too. But I really saw the mental traits, the mental toughness there, the the effort, the motor, the willingness to win, the fight, the energy, the passion that Lamar had at Louisville was unmatched by anyone in that class. I liked Josh Allen a lot, quite a bit too, more than most. Uh, and even Sam Darnold showcased that quite a bit himself at USC. But there was just something about Lamar and the mental traits that he showed, even the Bobby Petrino system with the reads and the recognizing defenses and playing off of that. A lot of Lamar's issues were technical or mechanical. They weren't mental issues, which is one of the reasons why I was so high on him as a prospect. Uh, I had him as pretty clear QB1, in even as stacked as that class was, because he showcased to me the mental toughness, the decision making, and the ability to be the awareness, I'll call it just in general, uh, that he needed to at Louisville. The ability to adjust angles, to the ability when he was running, the ability to recognize pocket collapsing and get the ball out, or just escape and run when he was under pressure. Uh, the ability to recognize defenses and so on, he has developed and so on over the course of time too. But it was something that he didn't really struggle with all that much at Louisville. So I'm kind of noticing that that's been a really consistent trend. And with the Lions, especially going forward, uh, if we were to undergo a regime change, which I'll end up talking about in a future edition of this, probably with Sam or Braden or Keilan or 3 or 4 of them, uh, is if we were to be looking for a quarterback, or even if Bob Quinn just to stay and decide to move on from staff, the one thing that I'm really going to be focusing in on is those mental traits, the decision making, the pocket presence, the poise, the toughness, and things like that. And ultimately, that was why Joe Burrow was as great as he was as a prospect, and he's found a little bit of success so far too, with those same traits. That mental toughness, the pocket presence, the poise, the decision making, all these types of things he was so consistent at last year at LSU, and it resulted in a championship. It's so consistently, I guess, connected to championship teams. They're all teams that are mentally, and that's why the Patriots are so successful. Those teams are mentally tough. They're good decision making, and they don't do stupid, dumb things. They are consistently smart. And I feel like that's something that a lot of the poorer teams are lacking. Is they're lacking mental toughness, they're lacking decision making, they're lacking awareness. And those are the types of things that are going to build successful teams. Knowing where you are supposed to be, knowing where you are, and knowing where your teammates are and are supposed to be is an important part of defense in 2020 and an important part of quarterback play in 2020. And even as we're seeing in Lions Lane a little bit this year, an important part of receiving in 2020. And communication and blocking assignments and so on are an important part of offensive line play. And knowing where you're supposed to go and where the hole is and being able to read lanes and vision is a very important part of running in 2020. So all of this stuff kind of ties back to mental traits. And I just wanted to talk about that for a little while and really get that off of my chest because it's been something that I've really taken the chance to focus on over the course of quarantine, researching for the NHL draft and that process, uh, and researching the Red Wings as I get into hockey a little bit more, talking to Braden and Keilan, uh, and watching my second and third favorite teams in Dallas and Tampa battle each other out in the Stanley Cup Finals. The Dallas Stars have a former Red Wings assistant general manager in Jim Nell as their GM. And as I talked about, the Lightning were largely built by Yzerman, who was not the Red Wings GM and was a former Red Wing as a player for his entire hockey career. So, a lot of Red Wings connections over the course of this playoffs, and it's been really fun to watch, especially in quarantine, with the struggles that the college has had in September and August and so on, kind of lacking the preseason elements is there as well too. I've been able to kind of sit back and focus on hockey and basketball. Uh, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of just learn about the different things that go into making teams successful there, and how we can apply that to football. And I think that's my number one takeaway. I really wanted to get that off my chest and do a video on it. This might be like a ramble or whatever. This is very informal, especially compared to our other videos. But uh, I really felt like I wanted to kind of get that out of my head and into an actual video where I can go back to it and get this to you guys so that you can kind of feel free to think about this too. And maybe this inspires you guys to kind of take a look at tape in a different way or think about things from a different perspective. Uh, and ultimately, a lot is made out of a quarterback being a winner. And I don't think that a quarterback is naturally a winner. I think that a quarterback becomes a winner based on their mental traits. Can they lead? Can they make good decisions? Can they adjust to fix problems that may or may not arise? And ultimately, that goes back to coaching and the rest of the team. Obviously, you can't be the best quarterback in the league and have garbage talent around you. And obviously, if you're playing great teams in the SEC, there's a different element there than playing a little bit lesser teams in, for example, Division Two. Um, so there's different pieces and obviously factors involved, and that would take years and hours to go into. But ultimately, I really just wanted to touch on it and make a point about the evolution of mental traits and how that's really been a primary focus for me over the course of what I've been doing, scouting wise, evaluation wise, analysis wise, uh, tying back to the NFL side of things, but also to the prospect side of things and the draft on both ends moving forward and over the course of the last couple months. So, with that said, for those of you guys wondering what I've been doing over the course of quarantine and why we haven't been posting videos, it's been a big part of that for me. Is finding out things that work, exploring different processes, exploring different ways of thinking. Uh, because I've had the tendency, for the most part, to look at things through a Lions perspective, through my experiences with football. And in a way, this ties back to that, of course, because obviously a lot of my experiences with football and Lions teams of the past before Quinn Trisha were teams that struggled mentally. uh, so go figure. Direct correlation, strong, direct, positive correlation here. But I feel like that is something that I think is going to be important, and you guys are going to hear me reference and talk a lot about over the course of the next several months as we do get back into prospect videos. And I'm going to make a major focus on awareness and vision and uh, coverage recognition and decision making and all those types of things, depending on the position, and uh, really making that a primary focal point of this channel and my breakdowns and my scouting and so on going forward. And I think that's ultimately going to become uh, the number one part of my process. And one thing that I've really tried to do over the course of this channel is not only help teach you guys about what I'm seeing and what I'm looking for, but also try and find some consistency and uh, some process myself. And I change it every year to kind of see what works and what doesn't, and stick with things and change things and adjust, because obviously I'm adjusting, and as you learn more over the course of the year is important. And of course, the NFL changes a little bit every year too, so it's important to not just stay in the ways of 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, but update and modernize and try and look more ahead to what we're looking for in 2020 and 2021 and predict what's going to happen, rather than stick to what's worked in the past, because that might not work in the future. Uh, so for me, as I've progressed through the course of this channel, I have been learning myself along with you guys, and I've helped find and create my own processes, and work with Sam and Braden and Keilan on hopefully helping build and refine theirs. Uh, and I think that this is one thing that I really am going to stick with for probably the rest of my life when it comes to particularly sports evaluation, no matter where I end up. I'm still going to be doing this whether I end up as a media journalist or a podcaster or an actual scout or evaluator at the NFL level, or wherever I end up. Maybe it's not in sports and I get into something completely different and I just do this on the side. Uh, Wherever I end up, I think it's going to be an important part of the rest of my life moving forward, and even the rest of my evaluation and analytics and analysis. So, with that said, um, that's what I really focused on learning. And I feel like it's important for me to share with you guys what I learned, uh, to kind of help you guys grow and think of things through your own lens and your own perspective. Maybe you're a Jets fan who's really struggling looking forward to the draft. What's something that you can take out of this? Well, the next leader of your team should be someone who is mentally tough, has great decision making, and is very aware of their teammates and their opponents on the field. Maybe you are a team like Baltimore, who has prioritized this in the past consistently, going back to the days of Ray Lewis. And you can be like, yeah, I can totally relate to that. Like, our best Super Bowl runs, like even the Joe Flacco crazy year, have been teams that have been the best decision making, the most aware, the most intelligent team. Or a Patriots fan who, like, yeah, I totally relate to that. There's one thing that the Patriots process preaches with Belichick is finding those mentally tough, those aware, good, highly intelligent players. Or maybe it's finding guys who uh, are maybe like Atlanta, who just fired their GM and coach, and are looking for a new regime. Maybe that's something that you want to prioritize in your next leader, someone who focuses on mental traits and recognizes that that is a core critical piece of what builds championship teams and really separates the great teams from the best teams. And even tying this back to Detroit basketball, right? Like, just sticking with the Detroit message for those of you guys who are Lions fans, maybe you follow other Detroit teams. The 2004 Pistons, they weren't the best shooting team of all time. They were a good defensive team. Uh, but the one thing that they all had was communication, mental toughness, discipline, uh, and awareness, and decision making. They capitalized on other teams' mistakes and they limited their own. And the only thing that was able to stop that in 2005 was Greg Popovich and the Spurs, who play a very similar style of team with Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, etc., etc. We beat the Lakers team with Kobe Bryant and Shaq, star-studded superstar team. Oh my God, they're a great team. Blah blah blah. They have two of the greatest players ever, and it wasn't even just those guys too. I think they had Karl Malone and Gary Payton on that team too. two very experienced, intelligent players by having those mental traits. And so I think that that's something that Troy Weaver is going to bring to Detroit and so on and so forth. I won't spend too much time on that element, but hopefully that's something that we see Weaver prioritize in the NBA draft upcoming too, in free agency now that the NBA season is over. So, with that said, it's been a lot of talking for me. Hopefully you guys took something out of this, learned a thing or two. Uh, Apologies if this came off as more of a ramble, but hopefully you guys took something out of this. And learned something about my thought process and what I've learned over the course of the last several months. And you guys learned a thing or two along the way. So, with that said, don't forget to like and subscribe. We might end up turning this into a podcast or whatever, a series, talking about different things that we look for. Uh, and breaking down the NFL season I thought about, and breaking down the college season, and going over prospects we don't watch on camera because we do that a lot too. So let us know what you guys think. Do you have any other things, any thoughts on the mental trait topic? And are there any other mental traits that I didn't bring up that you guys look for, aside from the decision making, the vision, communication, and things like that, the awareness element that maybe I'm forgetting, that maybe I should be looking more into myself? Definitely let me know in the comments what you guys are at, or where you guys are at on that as well. But anyways, hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more over the course of the draft process. But for now, peace out.